Hi, everybody. My name is Shelby Coven, and I'm so excited to be kicking off InVision, a monthly podcast hosted by Vision Center Leadership Development for Aging Services. For those who may not know, Vision Center partners with universities, senior care and aging service providers, supports associations, and business partners to advance the field of senior living leadership to students nationwide. I'm passionate about senior living leadership, and I'm excited to be working with Vision Center as an intern to further my knowledge in the field. I'm pursuing my bachelor's in health services management from Indiana University, Indianapolis, with a minor in graphic design. The InVision podcast will provide regular inspiration and guidance to students interested in pursuing a career in senior living leadership, especially those working to become a licensed nursing home administrator or healthcare executive. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Erin Rawlins. Erin is a peer of mine. She is a senior at Indiana University, Indianapolis, also majoring in health services management. She started interning with BHI Senior Living in May of this year as operations intern. After her 3-month internship, she started working as their project specialist. She's worked on many projects for them, including auditing the policies for the Memory Care Journey program, working with HR, and budgeting, planning, and finalizing AL apartment remodeling. She is currently working on enhancing their life enrichment program by starting up a new project called Living on Purpose, which I will let her explain to you and what her role in that looks like. So, together we'll be exploring her journey so far in the senior living field and gain some perspective from her as an emerging leader. Hi, Erin.
Hi, so excited for today. So basically I started working, interning in May of 24, and she already kind of explained those projects, but for my current project that I'm working on, which is the Living on Purpose, it is basically we're trying to enhance what they're doing in the activities department. We say life enrichment, but it's also known as activities. So basically, I am coming up with ideas and different ideas or activities that they can do that will help them maybe find a new hobby, things that really interest them rather than just having like a distraction during the day, like, coloring or doing a craft or something. Like we want it to be meaningful and purposeful for their life and bettering their quality of care and what they do day to day. So that's kind of the main thing. A couple ideas is we want to enhance their traveling. So if they want to go out of state, we'll give them kind of the resources to do that and however they need to. But yeah.
Amazing. So, can you tell us a little bit like how you got into this field or what made you interested in working in the senior living field?
Yeah, so my dad actually used to work in long-term care for a long time. He went from being a CNA to being a marketing coordinator, and then he also worked as an activities director. So growing up, I would often go to work with him, and I used to walk dogs for some of the residents. I would just hang out with them. I would play games with them. So I always kind of been around it. And from there, I've always just been interested in continuing with that just because I saw what my dad did and how it affected them and made them happier. So,
For sure. I feel like a lot of people who go into senior living had prior connections to the field. I feel like I'm different because I just kind of stumbled into it through the Vision Center, but I think that you're definitely not alone in being like, oh well, I had connections to someone who was already in this field and I was able to see what they were doing, and then that inspired me to, you know, move forward in the field.
yeah, no, 100%. Because I feel like a lot of people don't even think about working in long-term care unless it's brought to their attention in the first place. So,
Yeah, for sure. Um, we already kind of talked about like what your role looks like with BHI. I know you started as an operations intern. How was that experience for you?
it was really good. Operations is very broad, and I got to learn many different um, places. So I learned everything from budgeting. I got to work with HR. I got to work with marketing. Obviously, my supervisor was the operations of or the VP of operations for BHI. So I just really got a good overall example of what each position holds and what you can do in it through being the operations intern. So it was really great. It was really, really good experience.
For sure. How do you feel like interning in the field? has changed your view on the field rather than when you were just like in school? Because I've explained on like panels and stuff like that. Like our program is very hospital based. It's very like, you know, everything you do is essentially based around like how to manage a hospital and be a hospital administrator. And we don't get a lot of focus on those smaller aspects of healthcare, such as senior living. So I'm kind of curious to see like how your views on things have changed, since being in the field rather than just like being in school.
Yeah, so I totally get it. Everything is very clinical based, hospital based. Going in as an intern, I quickly realized BHI really cares about what the resident wants and what they want themselves rather than, I guess you could say, like society as a whole, what they would want. It's very personalized. If a resident comes to us and says that they want this changed,
Yeah.
something about the day, they want it changed. We do our best to kind of do that for them, and I learned that that is on their top part like list of priorities is to make sure that everybody is the happiest that they can be, and we would do anything for them to get to that point. Whereas what we kind of learn is it's very rule-based, policy-based, which we still very much are, but at the same time, like I said, we make it very personalized and we want to make sure that we are doing what makes them happy, not just us.
Yeah. I feel like that's something like really important to note. I had like a question I was gonna ask later on, but I feel like it's more appropriate to ask it now. Um, do you think that like actually let's start with this. With there being so many like potential career opportunities, why do you think senior living tends to be understaffed?
So a big thing with that is I just feel like people have already in their head an idea of what working in long-term care is like, and it's quite frankly it's very much the opposite. A lot of people think that the people they're going to work with are angry, mean, that the residents aren't going to be appreciative. It's so much the opposite. Like they really do deserve the best quality of care, and I just feel like people just have a bad rap on them. I'm not 100% sure why, but they really do appreciate what you can do, and it's just hard to find people who are willing to commit to providing quality and more comfort care rather than treatment-based care, which is what is kind of taught in school and as far as clinical and hospital wise, like you are learning to how to treat people and their treatment process, whereas working in long-term care, it's more about providing comfort and quality of care at the same time. So it's slightly different, still very much the same, but still different in that way. And it takes a certain person to want to provide that type of dignifying care for them. So,
I like to always like since getting involved with the Vision Center, I feel like something that gets two phrases that I feel like I hear a lot are either like you're taking care of somebody's parents or you're taking care of someone's grandparents. And like just putting that perspective on it, where it's like, well, you would want someone to care for your parents in that way or care for your grandparents. And it does take a very special person, I feel like, to want to step into those shoes. But rather than like looking at senior field and just kind of like shaking it off, being like, I don't want to do that, like we need passionate people in this field. And I feel like so many people just turn away from it when, there are so many like opportunities there. Do you think that like misconceptions of senior living like negatively affects people deciding to go into this field?
oh yeah, 100% it does. I kind of briefly touched on it already, but um, people have this certain idea of how working in long-term care works, or in a nursing home, how that works. It's not always sad and, oh, well, they're not going to be here very soon. Like, why do they need this certain type of care? It doesn't matter. They're people too. They have lived their whole life. No matter what stage of life you're at, you're a baby, you're a young adult, you're a senior now. You deserve the same quality of care. And I feel like people forget that and kind of just they don't always think about the older people. They think that they can take care of themselves.
Yeah.
or themselves. And it's not always like that. They still need help and they still deserve the best quality of care. And people just kind of forget
Yeah.
that and have a negative idea of how it is working in long-term care.
Yeah.
So
What, how do you think as like, I don't know, just like people interested in senior living, but also as like a university or, like how can we inspire students to want to go into, senior living or long-term care?
I think a big thing that would help is just talking about it more. I went through all of high school, all of most of my college without even though my dad worked in it for a long time, I personally knew about it, but school-wise, it's always talking about, oh, you're going to be a nurse in a hospital, you're going to be working at a doctor's office or something like that. It was never brought in the idea of, oh, well, what do you think about working in long-term care, helping, senior adults? Nothing like that was ever brought up. I feel like it's just simply not talked about enough. And I feel like bringing it up as, maybe a lesson in college, along with, learning about CNAs, things like that, they leave out the part of senior care in these lessons, whereas it's just taking care of babies, taking care of, just kids in general or adults. Never do they specify senior adults or working in senior living. So I just feel like talking about it would help a lot more and bring more light to it, and it's just not done yet. So,
I feel like another thing that I feel like would really help, and I've, touched on this in the past with things related to the Vision Center, but I feel like highlighting impact and like the real impact that you can make on these seniors' lives. Erin and I both were pre-dental hygiene majors, so both came from pre-clinical majors. But I know a lot of our peers are like that. They came from pre-dental hygiene or nursing. And I feel like a lot of the times you associate that with, well, I love healthcare, and so I'll still be able to work in healthcare, but you feel like maybe you lose that that feeling of making an impact that you would very easily be able to see with your own eyes, like when you are, cleaning someone's teeth or helping a patient as a nurse, like that one-on-one connection that you're able to have, you can physically see the impact that you're making. I feel like for those of us who still want to make an impact and see the impact that we're making, senior living is a really good field for that. And I'm sure that you've had experience with that, especially through your internship with BHI.
oh, 100%. That was a great way to put it. Yeah, working in senior living, it's so easy and so amazing how quickly you're able to make an impact too. It's not something that takes a long time. It's as simple as going up to one of the residents and saying, "Hi, how is your day?" And you can just see how it lights up their face because they deserve and they want that personal connection just as much as you're seeking out that. So, yeah, you definitely worded that perfectly.
Yeah. Um, what is something that you feel like someone who doesn't know anything about senior living, or even who, I don't know, could be in a program similar to ours and is realizing, I don't want to go into hospital care. I want to do something else, but maybe doesn't know anything about senior living. What's something that you feel like they should know or something that would encourage them to get into this field?
I feel like it's just important to note it's not a sad place to work. I feel like a lot of people think like this is kind of very like vague and very much in your face, but a lot of people just think, oh, like they're there and they're dying. Like that's it. It's not that. Especially if you get into organizations like BHI, we have a whole continuum care community. So we go all the way from independent living, assisted living, all the way to skilled nursing facilities. So like we have all stages of those, minus hospice, which we are working on getting hospice started as well. But um yeah, I just feel like people need to know that you will be able to make an impact. It's not sad. It's not, the residents aren't angry all the time. Like that's all I ever hear is, "Oh, I don't want to work with them because they're going to be mean." They're not. They might have dementia, they might be confused, but that doesn't mean that they're hateful. They're simply just maybe confused or they're just having a bad day, just like everybody else can have a bad day too. So I feel like that's just important to know. It's not always sad and you can really make an impact and it is a good place to work.
What do you feel like has been the most impactful thing that you've experienced while being in the field so far?
This is a tough question. I'm trying to think. I feel like what I'm doing right now, the project I'm working on, I can kind of see and I can tell how much of an impact it's going to make and how much of an impact it's already making with my other coworkers. So I'm working on the Living on Purpose project, and all of my other coworkers, they're so excited. Our team is all of the activities directors at all of our campuses, and we're all working together to kind of make it better for our residents. And by providing these new ideas and these new activities for them to do is really going to enhance their quality of life and just their purpose in life and what they want to do and what makes them happy. A lot of our residents, um, you know, they've worked their entire lives. They never really had, and they're like very hard workers. They never had time to really find their own hobbies or just, chill out. And now that they're retired and ready to chill out, we want them to be able to find a new hobby that they like, whether it be, going and reading in a book club or going and traveling, things like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that is such an amazing project to be working on. And I feel like even just that alone can change, almost like the stereotype of working in senior living and what, you know, um, assisted living and nursing homes, like what they look like. I feel like all of us just have this connotation of, oh, there's the joke of like putting your parents in the home, like, where it's like
Yeah.
you don't, that's something that you just, there's a negative connotation to it with like stuff like that it's, you want to, it's not like they get put into this space and then, life is just already over for them. This is their box and they're stuck and this is it. Like, no, you're still living. There's time to keep growing and even like learn more about yourself and what you like to do. And so it's almost like, that gives them a space to live more and, not have to work or, stuff like that. So I think that that's really beautiful.
No, 100%. And that's kind of the purpose of the project and what we hope to get out of it is just that. So,
Yeah. Vision Center had their symposium in June where, faculty from our program, people from all over came and I was able to hear panelists and people talk about, their experience in the field. And I know that, the Wish of a Lifetime program was talked about. They give, elders the ability to travel or do the things that they always wanted to do. And I had never heard of it prior to the symposium, but I thought that was so beautiful because just in the same way we're talking about, they always encourage, oh, you can work with kids. Oh, you can work with babies. The way that we can give, sick children, their make-a-wish. I think that it's just as beautiful to do that for someone who is elderly and also, maybe isn't able to get those opportunities on their own. So yeah, stuff like that I feel like almost even needs to be promoted more so that people know it's not just this box of sadness. It can be so much more than that.
100%. I agree.
What excites you most about going into the senior living field? I feel like maybe we've talked on this a little bit, but just as someone who's going to graduate soon and, really get into the field, like what's something that, gets you excited and makes you want to stay in the field?
Yeah, so like you said, we've already kind of touched on it. I'm really excited to just see the impact that I'm going to be able to make on the projects that I'm doing. I can't wait to hopefully get into the AIT program so that I can learn more and get more knowledge on long-term care. Um, Overall, I can't wait to see the impact I'm going to make. I can't wait to continue to make my steps up in, the corporate side of it, and things like that. Yeah, so I just can't wait to see what I can do.
For sure. My last question for you is what is a piece of advice that you would either give to current leaders in the field as an emerging leader, something that you feel like they should know, or to students who maybe are interested in senior living, aren't yet, just any piece of advice that you would give?
An advice I would say for somebody who is not sure if they are wanting to go into long-term care, because it's something I hear a lot. They have the opportunity, but they're like, I'm not really sure if I want to work in a place like that or work in long-term care. I really just say try it out. If especially if it's an internship or even if you just go and shadow somebody or volunteer for, a nursing home or, wherever in long-term care. I think a lot of people, if they just took that little extra step just to try it, it doesn't mean you have to stay there. Just trying it and seeing where it takes you, I feel like is the first step to figuring out what you really want to do, whether it be long-term care or not. So,
I feel like even if you have an internship volunteer and you think, maybe this isn't my speed, that's still more exposure into the field where they can realize like, oh, it's more than this. And, maybe then they can educate someone else and be like, listen, it wasn't for me, but I think it could be for you. And this is what it entails. It's not just this,
right.
stereotype that everyone makes it out to be. So, yeah.
100%. One more checkbox for them. They either
Uh,
like it or they don't, and then they can move on from there. So,
my internship with the Vision Center, like I just kind of fell into it because they were looking for someone with our major, the, health services management, but they needed a, social media graphic design intern. Well, that was perfect for me because I was majoring in health services management with a minor in graphic design. Um, so it wasn't, while I still was passionate about senior living and it was still something I was super interested to get into, it wasn't, a field that I was like headstrong on. Like I said, I didn't have any prior connections to the field. So it wasn't until I stumbled into this position and, was able to attend the symposium and just the projects I've been able to work on, really I've seen like what senior living really is, and I've drawn a passion for it because of this. So, and yeah, I mean, perfect example. I, wasn't into the field and then took an internship, and like my perspective on everything has been completely changed. So, I think it's definitely
good.
something to, tell students.
Yeah, 100%.
For sure. Okay, well, I just want to thank everybody for listening in on this month's InVision podcast. Thank you so much, Erin, for meeting with me. I feel like your perspective has been such an asset and it will help a lot of leaders and a lot of students.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, thank you.
Okay.